You never know what's going to happen. You just roll right into it. All right. Hey, everybody. I am Daddy Sam, and this is A Touch of Gay, episode 67. Starting off without even having everything placed on my desk. How unusual. I usually have to put the plane right on the runway where it's supposed to go. Today, we have quite a few things we're talking about, some exciting things to me and some important things, I think, for our community. We're going to take a little drive down the lesson about taking care of our gay spaces and how the not gay people out there need to respect our gay spaces. We're also going to be talking about the return of the Barracks Bar brand here in Phoenix. They finally got to go ahead this week, a big triumphant win for the Barracks team. We're going to talk about that and a couple of other things. But first, we always like to start with our daily inspiration, which is from our social media, which is A Touch of Gay Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. A little bit of uplifting, sometimes educational, sometimes funny, sometimes sexy, but it's always a meme every day. I like to call them inspirations. Don't like the word meme, but I just did, didn't I? And today is simply this: false pride always keeps us overly concerned about reputation. And basically, false pride is a few different things. The definition, the closest thing I could find, simply says this: false pride is an inflated ego used to mask deep-seated insecurity. Now, this is something that I have been guilty of in my lifetime. Not so much anymore, but there was a period of time in my life where I was very insecure in who I was. I was in that false pride place where I was blowhard. I still sit in front of a microphone and talk all the time, but I tend to be a little bit more in the column of humility, or at least I try to be. But there are three major aspects to false pride. The first one is defensiveness, interpreting constructive feedback or differing opinions as personal attacks. We've all met this person. You can't say anything to them. You try to say, hey, wait, but, and you're attacking them, you're breaking them down, you're against them. And they're not usually willing to listen to constructive criticism. And when you have somebody like that around you long enough, you tend to just stop doing that. The next one is impression management. Hypersensitive about your reputation, always worried about how I'm going to look, constantly manipulating how others perceive you and validate your self-worth. I've seen a president like that recently. Inability to apologize is a third characteristic, viewing an admission of fault as a threat to your social standing. I've seen a president like that too. False pride is driven by fear and internalized shame. It relies on external validation, status, and pretending to be flawless to manipulate others' opinions. True pride is derived from authentic accomplishments and personal values. It builds self-respect, allows for learning from mistakes, and does not require constant praise from others. I bring this topic up today because I've driven in this lane myself, and it's something that I have to watch out for in my daily life. And I think many of us do. And again, we all know that person that just lives there permanently. And we tend to adopt different behavior around them just to manage when they're around. So moving on, my weekly check-in, where I just like to sit down and share with you what's going on in my life very quickly because we've got some big topics to get to. The heat. Oh my God, I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's been 110 all this week. It's abusive. Oh my God. Now, some of you might say, well, don't live there. I don't have to deal with the freezing winters, I'll tell you that. But I recently just had the big giant window in my office tinted very dark in the last week, so that right now in the afternoon when I'm recording this, I don't have this bake oven effect going on in here, and it's helped so much. The other thing that's going on right now is I'm contemplating my fall travels. We have a number of events coming up in September and October. One of them is a big leather event down in Los Angeles tied to the leather club that my husband's a part of, and we're planning on going down there in September. So making reservations and where we're going to stay, what we're going to do while we're there. And there's also a spiritual gay men's retreat here in Phoenix, Arizona in October that's on our calendar. And then I want to go to Palm Springs Leather again, just like we did last year. I don't know if we're going to make it, but I'm starting to document and take inventory of what the expenses for that are going to be, what the hotels cost, all of that, so that I can start assessing whether we can add that in October. So it's going to be a busy fall. You've heard me on this podcast before talk about, oh my God, my life is so full. It's so busy. What am I going to do? And I'm in that cycle again of planting some busy seeds for the future, but it's a good life. I've got no complaints. And another thing that's happened here in the recent month or so is I've been having a lot of vivid dreams where personalities who I know, both present and past, are appearing in those dreams. I had a visit in very early morning dream today from Miss Regina Wells, who we talked about on our podcast just some weeks ago. She recently passed away, and I was sitting somewhere and I leaned back past the row I was sitting in, and here she was walking down the aisle toward me, and she looked absolutely beautiful. It was like she was in this new young body, and she was wearing a yellow tight-fitting dress, which really complemented her figure. She looked very much, if you're watching this on YouTube, she looked very much like the picture that I'm showing you, which is a highly doctored picture, and one I suspect was taken when she was quite a bit younger than when she passed. But she comes up to me, and I just leaned back into this beautiful, warm hug that she gave me, and it was just, I can feel it now just talking about it. It makes me emotional. And it was just like that visit you get from somebody who passed when they appear in a dream and they just come back and let you know they're okay. And so it made me feel very happy inside. I woke up, I had a good cry, and I moved on with my day. And I'm grateful for these things. It's for me, a spiritual experience when I have visits from people who have passed. The first time it happened with my mother and father, it was an amazing experience. My mother passed away in 2010 and my father passed away in 2015, so it's been quite a while. A couple of years after that happened, I had that first appearance from them in a dream, and I was behind them, and I saw them sitting together on a wooden bench on a bluff overlooking the ocean, and I just saw them sitting together. And they were looking out to the water, just staring off into the west. It was on the Pacific coast, as I later came to find out. And I remember them looking back at me and just sort of smiling, and that was all it was. That was the end of it. But it was just that appearance where I got to see them together, and they were beautiful and healthy looking and happy, and it gave me a great sense of comfort. Fast forward several years later, after I started dating my husband, we went to La Jolla for a little weekend getaway. And we weren't married yet. We were just starting to date and be together. And we walked down to the beach. And as we walked over across the road that lines the beach, we walked up to this bluff. And there's a trail that goes along the top of the bluff. And we came across this bench. I realized immediately that this is the place where I saw my parents in that dream. I looked out, it was exactly the place. And I just had that feeling come over me. And my husband and I were actually just getting ready to take a break and stop and sit down because we had been walking for a while. And it just gave me this overwhelming sense of spiritual connection. It gave me a sense of everything's going to be okay. It gave me a pretty good sense that my parents knew that I was going to be there with my future husband, and that they not only approved, but that they loved us very much. And so I wasn't expecting to talk about that today, actually. So I'm sorry it's a bit of a long talk, but these are the things that happen in my dreams and in my life that I'm so grateful for, because it indicates to me that there is more than what I see as I walk through my daily life in the present. And that's a wonderful thing. So let's move on to the topics of our show. Last week, on our Catch of the Week, I showed a sign that was at the Hunter's Bar that talked about the fact that they are a gay establishment and that they expect people to respect the space, and that they have some rules around how they want you to behave if you're not part of the gay community. And I gave a quick little story about a bridesmaid, a bachelorette party going down the street and walking into Hunters, and that really struck a chord. I did a mini video that has just gone viral on Instagram, on some of the other social media, and on our YouTube channel with lots of commentary. I mean, a lot. It seems to have really struck a chord with gay men out there because we all identify with that group of drunk bachelorette bridesmaid party women that come into a gay bar and they touch us, they slobber all over us, they treat us like we're part of their show, and they're generally disrespectful to everybody in the room. I was quite surprised. It was about 98% of the people who commented on that were like, yeah, I get that. There was a small group of people not reacting very favorably to my assessment of the bachelorette and bridesmaid party situation. One of the allegations that some of the dissenters had was, aren't you guys hypocrites? Because you're always talking about inclusivity, and now you're saying bridesmaids can't come into your bar. The point that has to be made here, and why this really strikes a chord, is because when people visit gay spaces and they're not part of the community, they need to understand that A, they're in a gay space, and B, they need to be respectful of everyone there. It's just like if my husband and I were to attend a church service at a conservative Baptist church, we might not wear a lot of rainbow stuff. We might be very submissive in terms of our tact and our attitude. We might be respectful of what people say to us and what they offer us in that experience. We might not kiss and make out sitting in the pew in front of everybody. We might not just walk into their place, their house, their space, and do things that any human being should know is going to rattle their teeth. The same goes for people coming into a gay space. Yes, we want inclusivity. No, we're not saying women can't come into a gay bar. A lot of women do. A lot of lesbian women come in, a lot of trans women come in, a lot of straight women come in. But there's a difference when we talk about bridesmaids parties or groups of people that come in and treat us like we're some kind of entertainment venue for them. I've watched groups of people that look like they just walked in from a convention that got off a party bus and went into a gay bar because they thought, this might be fun, let's go check out the gays. They clearly didn't belong, not only in their demographics, but in how they were dressed and what they looked like they were looking to get out of this experience. That happens, and it happens not just in gay bars, but it happens in other gay spaces. I am in the recovery community. I attend most of my recovery gatherings and meetings at a place that is a gay recovery meeting venue. They have gay recovery meetings of different types of 12-step programs and other programs all day long, every day. It's a gay-owned operation. It's a gay-run operation, and it's a safe space for people in the LGBTQ plus community to come and be vulnerable and to practice their recovery and build a fellowship that they're safe in. We get people that walk into meetings there because our meetings are on the schedules around the world, nationwide, on the internet. They maybe didn't see the part on the schedule that said these are gay meetings, or sometimes recovery houses or halfway houses will bust people in that aren't part of the LGBTQ plus community. And when they get there and see the rainbow flags all over the walls, they start grousing and making comments like, what's all this about? Or people will get up and talk and share, and they're like, you'll start hear them, talking under their breath about, what's all this gay shit, stuff like that. And what they don't understand, or what they're choosing not to understand, is that they're in our house. They're in our house. They're welcome in our house, but they need to be respectful of our house. And the same goes for gay bars. It goes for other gay spaces. It's about respect. It's about respecting the space. And we as a community not only need to protect our gay spaces by pulling people aside and explaining to them when we see people acting out of order, or bringing that to a manager's attention at a bar, if that's the case. We need to be proactive in that and let people know, hey, this is where you're at. We ask that you be respectful. Or if a bar owner wants to not have these types of bachelorette parties or bridesmaids parties in their establishment, they need to find ways to do that. One of the comments I saw that I kind of chuckled at on the Instagram video was, They just need to play raw gay porn all over the TVs all the time. That'll keep them out. Yes, it probably would. But that's not legal in some of the states. California, they actually do that there in a lot of places, but here in Arizona, that's way not legal. You would lose your liquor license if you did that. Other states, every state has different rules around that. That is one option though for some places. One of the local clubs here that's very big and popular and has had problems with these parties of drunk women coming in and brawling through the place is they charge a cover on Friday and Saturday night specifically for women. Women have to pay a high cover charge, men do not. It's no different than some of the bars that are made for straight people where they charge men a cover charge, but women are free. It's tit for tat, same type of deal. But in this case, they're trying to discourage women from coming in by charging them money. The bottom line is, if you're somebody who's straight, or for whatever reason you just don't consider yourself amenable or part of the LGBTQ plus community, if that makes you uncomfortable, if you don't like those people, don't go to their places. Just don't come. We'd rather not have you there, to be quite frank. We created our gay spaces so that we could be who we are, where we are, without worrying about you. We had to grow up with you. We had to deal with you out there in the real world. We still do. We have our own spaces for a reason. So we ask everybody to be respectful of that and treat us with respect if you are going to be our guest. So that brings us to our big story of the podcast here, which is a new gay space here in Phoenix, Arizona that is poised to open up hopefully by the end of the year. And that is the Barracks Bar Phoenix. They're finally getting to move forward, having just gotten their liquor license. And so I'd like to congratulate Matthew Moody, who is the owner of this new bar. This is something that he has been working on for a very long time. It's been a dream of his to have his own leather bar. Many, many years we've been hearing about Matthew wants to start a bar. And he originally talked about starting an Eagle here in Phoenix. And when the Barracks in Cathedral City closed, an opportunity was right in front of him because he was doing a little bit of DJ work down there. He's a local DJ and an event promoter. He also competed at IML in 2023 and made the podium. He was second runner-up. And he partnered up with the owner of the closed Barracks Bar in Cathedral City, and they put their resources together. They bought a building here in Phoenix, and the plan has been for the past couple of years to open up the Barracks here in Phoenix and give us a leather bar that's a little bit larger, a little bit nicer than the current selection that we have right now. The problem has been that, as we have come to learn, the Barracks in Cathedral City closed in a cloud of controversies and allegations by the government agencies down there. The Alcoholic Beverage Control Bureau down there had a lot of allegations toward the bar. Cathedral City wanted him to do a lot of upgrades to the bar, and he just came to a point where he chose to close it down. And a lot of the allegations and the problems that the police allege have to do with people having sex at the bar and misbehaving, because all of the baggage from Cathedral City followed the owner, Richard Scott Murchison, here to Phoenix. And when they started having hearings and presentations and meetings with the public around opening this new location that they secured, the neighbors were very concerned about all of the rumors they heard about what went on in Cathedral City. The police were very concerned about what they heard about what went on in Cathedral City. The people who issue liquor licenses here in the state were very concerned about what went on in Cathedral City. Earlier this year, the duo came to a realization that to have any hope of success, they had to remove Murchison from the corporate structure to allow the Barracks to move forward and get their final approvals from both the city of Phoenix and obtain a liquor license. It was not quite that simple, though, as Moody had one final foe that came to a head this week, and that is heir to the U-Haul fortune, Str8. Now, Schoen owns the property right next door to where the bar is going to be in the Melrose District, which is the gayborhood on 7th Avenue. He owns a property which is almost sort of an industrial lot with a building where he stores his family's collector cars. So it's not a business. It's not a place where he lives. It's just a building where he stores his cars. Well, he's having a fit because he doesn't want a sex club right next to where he stores his cars. He claims he's worried about property values and a sex club hurting his property values. Schoen, who's an heir to a multi-billion-dollar fortune and has enough money to honestly not really worry about the property value of a property that's just not worth that much. It's not a huge place. It's not a glamorous place. It's a small, tiny lot in a residential neighborhood with a big building on it where cars can be stored. It's nothing special. He doesn't have to worry about clients. His kids don't live there, all of those things. But nonetheless, Schoen and his attorney waged a day-long show trial at the Arizona State Liquor Board meeting this week, calling into question gay culture and gay sex clubs, which wandered endlessly into conversations about pornography, hanky codes, wild sex orgies, and more. Even though Schoen said that he's not against gay bars and the fact that it is a gay bar, he's worried about it being a sex club, they went on and on and on, using the gay leather culture as a cudgel against approval of the Barracks to move forward. On a number of occasions, both in the media and at the hearing, Schoen voiced concerns about his reputation being harmed in the process. He warned the press and others not to defame his character. Very sensitive about his reputation. We talked about that at the beginning of our episode, didn't we? At one point, he stated to a media outlet, and he's quoted, "I am not a public figure. I'm a private citizen exercising my legal rights. You should consider that my children may find your article floating around on the internet one day. Republishing this kind of thing is not in the public interest, and I take my reputation extremely seriously." He's very worried about his reputation being seen, his name being associated with this fight against a gay LGBTQ plus leather bar. He's very concerned about his reputation, yet he doesn't mind being the tip of the spear to try to kill it. He doesn't mind putting himself online in meetings, putting his name out there, speaking to the media, and being the face of this battle. I don't want to defame his character, so I'm not talking about him specifically, but as a general rule, we talked about that whole false pride thing at the beginning of this episode. That's the first whole conversation that comes to mind here. But the second thing is, if you don't want people thinking that you're a bigoted, homophobic asshole, don't be one. It's pretty simple. If you don't want people to think that about you, don't be one. So once beyond the clown show and complaints about sex clubs, pornography, and gay culture in general, the Arizona State Liquor Board eventually approved his application. They weren't concerned about any of that. They didn't care. They didn't want an 8-hour show trial put on by Schoen and his attorney bashing gay clubs, gay sex, culture, and the whole 9 yards. They were talking about hanky codes. They were talking about porn on screen. They were going on and on and on about all of this stuff that had nothing whatsoever to do with what the liquor board cared about. And the liquor board only had one question. They wanted to know that Murchison was no longer part of the deal. And given that thumbs up, done, signed, approved. The footnote here is that Moody and the new Phoenix Barracks will be under a microscope. They will be under a microscope. Not only will the neighborhood around that be watching very closely to see how things like parking and noise affect them, there will be people in there watching this bar very closely to see if it becomes a sex romp. So in that way, first of all, I congratulate Matt Moody again for accomplishing what he has, because in all of these years watching this, I've just kind of held my head, held my face in my hand and thought, oh my God, this poor kid is never going to make it. And I say poor kid, he's not that much younger than I am, but he's younger than I am, so I'll call him a kid. I felt for him because I just thought he's never going to make it. He's never going to make it. Yet he's clawed his way through every one of these battles and hurdles and things that have gotten in his way. And he is determined to open up a leather bar. But we as a community, just like going back to that conversation about protecting gay spaces, we as a community need to police ourselves. If we want new spaces, if we want gay spaces, if we want to preserve the ones we have, and if we want new ones, we need to behave. We not only need to support them and be the community they need us to be to support them so that they're there for us, we need to not put them in a position where they're going to lose a license because we're doing things there that we know darn well are illegal. And I've been to plenty of gay bars around the United States. Every state has different laws and rules. California, they can play pornography on screens in a gay bar, but You cannot have sex there. You cannot hide in the corner and play around. If that happens, they can lose their liquor license very, very easily. And that's what a lot of the problems with Cathedral City and the Barracks, what the allegations were about. Yet, I've been to bars in other part of the country where they have dedicated play spaces within the bar. Sometimes they're down in the basement, sometimes they're in the back, where it's perfectly fine, perfectly legal for you to go do whatever you want to do after you've had a couple of drinks, or maybe you don't drink at all, but you want to go play. But whatever the case, where you live, chances are you know what the rules are. And if you want to protect our gay spaces, behave. Our event this week that I want to talk about is actually this week. It's starting this weekend. It is San Diego Pride, their big festival. It's Pride Week from the 11th to the 19th, and their main festival is July 18th and the 19th at Balboa Park. Now, I bring it up. Usually I talk about these things weeks and months in advance, but in a world that we live in right now, pride parades, pride festivals have been just ransacked because the corporate sponsors have pulled away, and a lot of communities, they've lost their support in a lot of different ways. And so a lot of big cities around the country have been canceling their pride festivals. They've been downsizing them. That's happening here in Phoenix. San Diego somehow has managed to push forward and have a large scale, full scale, huge pride festival down at the park. And they have a lineup of dozens of entertainment celebrities. It looks like just as big of a party as it's always been. They're going to have the parade. There's a very impressive lineup of entertainment, including Cruella. However they did it, they are not dialing it back. They are putting on a pride festival on the level that many of us have been used to. Now, I don't know about the corporate sponsorship angle at all. They're pushing forward, and I hand them my hat for that. I don't get to go this year myself, but if you are able to just pull up and go somewhere this weekend, go to San Diego, support the Pride Parade. Tickets are available now. You can go to the website. It's on the screen if you're watching us on YouTube, sdpride.org. Also down in the show notes, a link for you to click on. Very important. So our catch of the week, which is a new segment that we just started last week, which prompted half of our content today, Turkey, and I'm talking about the country, has blocked an LGBTQ plus Atlantis cruise from docking, citing moral values. So the country with the super hot AI grade, shirtless men oiled up in leather pants, wrestling together in the sand, is concerned about the moral values around homosexuality. Interesting. And that's all I have to say about that. If you ever want to watch that stuff, though, Turkish leather wrestling, Turkish oil wrestling, look that up on the internet. It's pretty titillating, I think. Not homosexual, though, not at all. And I will add that Egypt followed with a ban on that same cruise. But again, this is the world we live in. You don't have to be lined up with your morals and what you actually do to be able to go out there with your false pride and bang people over the head. You can say, no, we don't do that when you're doing that right over here. All you want. It's okay. It's okay. So that is our show for today. I thank you for tuning in and listening to us out there on the podcast platforms or watching us on YouTube. And if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see what I'm wearing. This is the Kinky Pig t-shirt from gruntstar.com, gruntstar.com. They're on the screen if you're watching us. Well, you would be watching us if you see this. This one is a light brown with a white logo. It's just a little pig face. Way to signal to the world that you're a pig. Gruntstar.com sells an entire collection of gay, kink-themed apparel, coffee cups, other little doodads, things like that. And there's a lot of different artwork there for you to check out. You can order it online. They deliver within the week. You can check out our website at touchofgay.com. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky are the social media channels. A Touch of Gay Pod is our handle there. Our audio podcast drops on all major platforms every Sunday. YouTube, usually a day or two early, sometimes Friday, most of the time on Saturday, whenever I get the edit done. And you can also catch us on gayphx.com, which is a 24/7 streaming gay radio station. Our podcast falls every Monday at 10 a.m. Arizona Mountain Standard Time, which is the same as Pacific Daylight Time right now. But depending on where you are, our Arizona doesn't change. We don't do the 1 hour ahead thing. We don't want the day to last longer in the summer. Trust me, we don't. So if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest video right there on the screen to my left, your right below that, a big round logo where you can click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please join the fun. If you're on a podcast platform, do the same there. Subscribe and you'll get us every week. Either way, stay tuned.